So animations, you can do 1, 2, 45, 257, infinity, whatever you want, many iterations. You can go in one direction from 0 to 100%, from 100% to 0, or from 0 to 100%, 0 to 100%, 0 to 100%, never backwards. So if you were snow dropping, right, the snow only goes in one direction. But if you were the wind in Chicago, you'd be going back and forth. Bad example, but hey. Or no, if you were like one of those, I went into the mall the other day and this thing goes like that, and I'm kind of like, why would anyone pay money to do that? I don't know. But that goes back and forth, from 0 to 100%, 100% to 0. You can have granular control. You can say, go from, do this. It's not just that. You can do whatever you want. You can initiate it on page load. It actually has a JavaScript API, so you can have hooks, because there's events, like end iteration, or iteration end, whatever. You can pause them. And one thing to note is someone asked me something earlier about whether you should be animating with CSS or JavaScript. And I instantly said CSS, because CSS has the lowest priority on the UI thread, which you might think is a bad thing, like, oh, I want my animation to happen. You don't really want your animation to stop other stuff from happening. So JavaScript blocks everything else from happening. So if you're animating with JavaScript, you're blocking the UI thread, you're blocking the reflows, the repaints, and the animations from CSS. So use CSS for your animations. It'll work perfectly fine, and you won't be blocking your UI thread. Okay, keyframes. These are the things we need to learn. So we have -5 minutes to learn all of this stuff. Now we're here till 4:30. We're still good. It's 4 o'clock. I lost some people, but they have lives and I don't. Okay, so this is a keyframe. Just says keyframes. You give it a name, kind of like you gave the font a name. Remember we gave the font a name and the counter a name? We give our animation a name. And then we can say from and to. So from left 0 to left 100%. That's what's happening. I prefer to use, instead of from and to, 0% and 100%, because there are only 2 key terms, from and to, and everything else is percents. So you might as well just use percents from the get-go. What it is it's a percent of time. So later on we will declare the duration, but you can reuse the animation. So you can make, oh God, this pencil's driving me nuts. You can make the, you can make it, what was I saying? I got driven insane by the pencil and I completely lost my train of thought. 0% to 100%. Oh yeah, you can put like 0%, 1%, 2%, but also you can reuse your animation. So you can attach it to 27 different pencils and they can all write at different speeds. So you use one animation, you say 0% to 100%, and then when you attach it to the pencil image, you say take 4 seconds, take 9 seconds. So that's why you use percentages. You do not use time, because if you use time, then you can't reuse the animation for things of different speeds. Don't forget the percentage marks, and do not quote the animation name. If you quote the animation name, it will not work in Firefox. So you have granular control. So here, when I mouse over it, it's going to go from 0% to 100%, but it's not going to do it in a linear fashion. It's going to go 45% of the way in 10% of the time. So it's going to go really fast, then really slow, and then really fast again. And as you see, that's what it does. Does it make sense? 0, left 45% to left 55% is 80% of the time. So if this was a 10-second animation, in the first second, it would go from 0 to 45% left, and then it would take 8 seconds to go 10% of the way, and then another 1 second to do the last part. Okay, so that is granular animation control. But you can also animate multiple properties. So far, what we've been doing is animating just the left. In this example, we're animating the top. Okay. So what it says is left, the 0% and the 100% both say left, have the left. 0 and 80%, right? I'll just stay here. Well, if I point, then I don't have to. Okay, so here, the left is here and here only. The other ones all have top. But we don't need to give granular control to the left because it's moving happily forward from the left, right? It's really the top that we need more control. We're going from top 0 to top 400 to top 50 because we're drawing a W. And as you can see, the W is not as tall in the middle, and so we're only going to 50 pixels from the top instead of 0. Make sense? So let's go over that one more time, and you see how it's making a W? It's animating two different properties. The left, when it's not declared through all these points, it just gets divided smoothly. It doesn't get divided, just only has 2 keyframes for left. But notice, you can actually only use 0% once. All of your percentage that you declare can only be declared once. Because like if you declare div and you say border none, and then in the next line you do div color red, that's fine. It'll be no border and it'll be red. We're all happy. Here, they're not really the same type of selector. It's a time selector. So you're overwriting that time. So you can only declare 0% once. You can put as many values as you want in here. You can even put 2% here and do that. You can put many on the same line. But you cannot declare 0% or any of the other percents more than once. Okay. You can also animate with transforms. And just, that's nice and smooth. That's all I wanted to show you. Prefixing. We still prefix all of these things. And since transforms is prefixed, we still actually, these are getting, pretty soon I can get rid of that. That'll be cool. So the thing is, we've been animating this pencil, except for we really haven't been animating this pencil. We've just created an animation that we have not attached to any element. The next step is to attach it to an element. So we have the base CSS. We say we have a pencil. The width is 100 pixels. It's text aligned to the right. That's why the pencil is on the right. And the border bottom is 10 pixels in solid. And it's all red. Everything's red. And then after it, we actually put the pencil after it. We position it absolutely from the bottom right. So we have this div called pencil that's 100 pixels wide and actually has no content. It's empty. We put the pencil after. And I did the pencil after, I think, because I wanted to change the color, and I didn't want to change all the color. And then we have this keyframe animation called draw a line. But notice we haven't attached the animation yet, and that's why it's not doing anything. So we have this draw a line, which goes from green to blue. So by default, our pencil is red. But when we animate it, it's going to go from green to blue, and from left 0 to left 100%. So to do that, we need to attach an animation name and give it a duration. These are the only 2 requirements, because if it doesn't have a name, there's no animation attached to it. And if it doesn't have a time, the duration is 0 seconds, and a 0-second animation is too fast for the eye to see, even if you're a cyborg. So here, notice that it's going from green to blue as it goes across. And when it's done, it's red, because the animation is over. I can make it go really fast, and I can make it go really slow, and then get annoyed with it and change slides. So animation timing function. I said I would talk about timing function later when I was talking about transition. This is when I'm going to talk about it. So the default value is ease, which means make it go from slower to faster. And there's like ease in, out, linear, which makes it go across the whole page at the same rate. Cubic Bezier, all of these values right here, oops, I can't do that because it's text, are actually cubic Bezier curves. And if you want to know what a cubic Bezier curve is, this is cubic Bezier, and you can actually pick one of these and then create your own and then compare them. So so if you want to actually have a thing write cubic Bezier curves for you, that's the value right there. So I'm not really going to explain that in depth, just wanted to quickly show you what it is. One that is not a cubic Bezier is step. So I'm going to actually step through this in 5 steps. And so what it does is it breaks your animation into 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it's over. It's just step is a different value. So if you're going to be doing like animating, all of my animations are smooth, so I can do linear or whatever. But if you're going to be like animating a cat running, and you're going to be using, and Rachel Neighbors did a good presentation of a cat running. That's why I used that as an example. The article is in 24ways.com, or org, I don't know. It just came out last week. And what she did is she used a sprite, and she used step. And over 10 steps, it runs like this. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But since she's making it go fast, like all those go in under 200 milliseconds, it looks like it's running. It's running in place, but it's running. So that's a good use of step, is to change the background position, because it jumps to different values. Okay, so iteration count. This time it's going to go 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then it's done, because I told it to go 3 times. The default value is 1, and the only key term that is not an integer is infinite. So the value should be an integer. And of course you're going to prefix these, right, with WebKit animation, iteration count, WebMoz, MS, and some of those might be over and done with. And then delay. So delay is kind of interesting, because right now, let's just move the delay to 4 seconds. So this is an 8-second duration animation, and I'm giving it a negative 4-second delay. Anyone have a clue as to what's going to happen?
Go back in time?
It is going to go back in time, and we'll have a time warp, and all the cookies will be back on the plates. No, it is actually going to start halfway through the animation. So when I click on start, the animation is going to start right about there, probably. So I'm going to click. You see that? Wow, that's slow. Oh, because it's an 8-second duration. Okay, so I'm going to make it run again. And I am going to actually make it only run once. Not even. This is going to be a 6-second animation, and it's only going to go once. Hopefully, because otherwise I'd be a liar. Either a liar or I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do know what I'm talking about, because that's actually what happened. So animation duration is kind of cool, because if you have like, if you're alternating directions, going from 0 to 100%, then 100% to 0, you can actually start your animation at 100% instead of 0. So you can name one animation. You can just do that, and that's very cool. But remember when I said that animation is the lowest priority on the UI thread? Let's say you are animating everything on page load. You know, you set your delays, like start after 4 seconds, start after 6 seconds, start after 8 seconds, and it takes your page 8 seconds to load. Well, it already went through. What it's doing is saying, I don't have the resources right now to run this animation, but I know that your duration expired, and your duration expired, and your duration expired. So it'll start all of the animations, the first 4 animations, right when it loads. So you actually probably want to target it with, when you have the onload, change the body class and base your animations on that body class. Otherwise, the delays are not going to work for you. Okay. That is, so animation direction. Remember when I said you can go from 100% to 0? That is what you can do. You can alternate it. So the first iteration goes from 0 to 100%, but the second one, it's going to draw backwards. It's going to go backwards in time. There. We just went back a second in time. So that's alternate. Animation direction, alternate. The default value is normal, and it will only go, see how it jumps back? Whereas alternate goes to the end, and then moves, I'll have to reload the page. What were you going to ask?
If you did 2 animations, will they remain reliably in sync?
If you do 2 animations that start at this, the only issue is the delay. So they should remain in sync, but if you start them at the same time, right? So if you tell them to start, if you tell one to delay 4 seconds and the other one to delay 6 seconds, the second one will start 2 seconds after, but they'll be in sync. Unless the page doesn't load and your delay expired on both of them, then they'll both start at the exact same time. So that's why you want to add that class. You want to make them start based on a class change or an onload event instead of just when the page loads. So animation shorthand. Thankfully, we have a shorthand for all of this, because that was a lot of text. Because when you prefixed it, you would have to do this, this, and this, and that. Instead, you just do animation, draw a line, 5 seconds, ease in and out, 100 milliseconds 5 times. So in terms of the source order, it doesn't really matter except for 2 things, or 1 thing. The duration always comes before the delay. Because if you do it the other way around, the browser's still going to make the duration come before the delay. So here we have cards, and basically what I do is I have 2 animations, one called Flip Me, and the other one called Unflip Me. So when I flip it, it animates, and when I flip this, it animates, and when I flip that, it animates, right? And then all I do is I do a class change, and it brings them back. So I have 2 animations, right? It's just a rotation. It rotates it, that's all it does. Rotates it in one direction, rotates it in the other direction. The way I did it to make them look different is card A flipped, first of type, rotate it and make it do this, nth of type 2, and the first one just stays where it is. Or I guess the last one stays where it is. This one doesn't change location. This one does, and this one does. But this one is in the same location that it was to start with. Does that make sense? So I use first of type. Remember when we were learning first of type about 4.5 days ago, it feels like, at this point? Okay, so the last thing we have is animation fill mode. What's been happening is all of our animations that we did, remember this pencil that's still going and going like the Energizer? It always went back to red. And then when I started it, it would go from green to blue. Now I need to change it first, I guess. It went from green to blue, and then it was done, it would go back to red, right? But I don't want that. I want it to be green before the animation ever starts, and when it's done, I want it to stay blue. And for that, we have animation fill mode. So we have 4 values: none, forwards, backwards, and both. So what none does is what we've been seeing this whole time. What forwards does is it says, when you reach the end of the animation, and the animation is done, stay on keyframe 100% forever, until that animation is actually removed from that element, stay on keyframe 100%. Backwards says, oh shoot, I didn't mean to click on it. Backwards says, before the animation ever starts, bring it to the 100%, the 0% keyframe. So let's say there's a 20-second delay on this pencil going, which fortunately I'm not going to do. But it will start right when the page loads. It'll make it green, and then after the delay is expired, after 20 seconds, it will start the animation. At the end of the animation, it'll go back to red. And then the last value, both. I'm going to actually click on it. What it's going to do is it's going to make it disappear off the page and be green for the 2-second delay. There we go, 1, 2. Now it's going to start. It's green. It's going to go all the way to the end, and it's going to hang out there and be blue. You see that? Because that's both. So just to show you here, I have added the 0% of blue. So backwards and both are already blue. The page has not started animating yet, but they're blue. And the top 2 don't have anything attached to them yet. Because the forwards is going to stay yellow when it gets to the end, and the both is going to stay yellow when it's get to the end. They're never going to get green because there's something, this animation is not actually what's on the page, it's something else on the page. So, but just realize that forwards and both are going to end up over here, and backwards and none are going to end up back at the beginning. When I click on this, I don't even remember how I start this page. Come on, do something. I had to click somewhere, I don't know where it is. So they're all blue. And then this one and this one stay at the end. So forget about the color, just think about the position. Forwards and both stay at the 100% keyframe. So can you stop an animation? Obviously you can, because everything I've done so far has stopped and started the animation, right? So usually what I have is on slide or off slide animation pause, hover, animation play. So this is called catch the pencil. It's not actually called catch the pencil, but I just call it the pencil. So it says pencil on hover, animation play state paused. The default value is running, so I didn't declare it in the default state. Obviously the default value is running, because why would you have an animation if it's not running? So I don't bother including that. But on hover, when I hover over the pencil, it stops. When I go off of it, it starts again, and you can catch the pencil and just play all day. And if you actually do this, there's something really mentally wrong with you. So let's just pause this again. Let's catch it. Okay, so it's actually, you have to prefix all of them. And obviously I'm doing something on hover, but I don't know how that's coming from something else. Okay, so there's another thing that happens at animation end. You get an event. So you can actually base an event. Remember how you asked me, are they going to be in sync? You can actually force them to be in sync by saying, start this animation when this animation ends, and you can use the event handler, add event listener, animation end. And right now it's still WebKit animation end. Eventually this will be the syntax, but right now this is the syntax. The only thing is, remember how we were making the pencil go like 50,000 times? That animation has 50,000 iterations, 50,000 starts, and 50,000 ends. So that's not the most useful API. But if you want to start an animation at the end of a previous animation, what I do is I restart the same animation by doing WebKit animation end, remove class, and wait 100 milliseconds to put that class back on. I chose 100 milliseconds. It's not the prime milliseconds, but if you remove a class and put the class right back on, your browser doesn't know that the class was removed and put back on. It's too fast. So I just give it a few milliseconds so that it actually senses that the animation is no longer attached and can reattach it.